Judges 14 and 15, one of my favorite stories in the Bible. A man killed a lion with his bare hands. Now, some of you have heard this before. Some of you have read this before, but I want to do something just a little bit different than I've done in the past when I preach this passage. So we're going to go through it verse by verse and kind of put ourselves into the story. But before we get there, I just want to encourage you to subscribe if you haven't already. Share this with a friend. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the Word of God. All right, so let's begin. Verse 1 of chapter 14 says, "And Samson went and told his father and mother that he had dreamed a dream." Now, in case you weren't aware, Samson was called of God. He was actually called to be a judge, a deliverer for Israel. But unfortunately, he made a vow, a Nazirite vow, where he said, "I'm going to abstain from alcohol, I'm going to abstain from cutting my hair, and I'm going to abstain from touching dead things." So Samson is one of the most powerful men of God in the Old Testament, but he also is very flawed. But as we walk through this passage, we see Samson's humanity, but we also see God's power through Samson's humanity. So verse 6, "Then his father went with him. It came to pass at the end of harvest, when Samson was going to Timnah, that he saw there a young woman dancing. The girl was a Philistine. She was a captive, and Samson was espoused to her." All right, so basically, Samson's parents, they go with him. They're escorting him because he's going to marry this girl. But then it says that Samson saw this young woman and she's dancing. Now, there's no indication that this was wrong. I mean, oftentimes in the Old Testament, dancing was used as a way to celebrate God. But then it says that she was a Philistine, she was a captive, which leads me to believe that perhaps Samson wasn't supposed to even be marrying this girl. But regardless, it says that Samson was espoused to her. That means he was basically going to marry her. Verse 18, "And it came to pass on the day when he met her that he made a riddle to them and presented it to them. If you can tell me the answer to this riddle, then I will give you 30 sets of fine linen and 30 pieces of silver. But if you cannot tell me the answer to my riddle, then I will take 30 sets of fine linen from you and 30 pieces of silver." They couldn't figure out the answer to his riddle, so Samson took all their stuff. Now, in Judges chapter 15, verse 1, "Then it came to pass after this, that he was in his field, and there was a lion roaring there against him. And Samson tore the lion apart, as he would have torn a child in pieces." So what we have here, my friends, is suddenness. When Samson went out into his field that day, he didn't know a lion was there. The lion probably didn't even know that Samson was there. But suddenly they come face to face. You don't plan for these moments. Sometimes life throws you curveballs. And then immediately, this passage is full of tension. Samson has his jaw. He's got his hand. The lion has its paws. It has its claws, its teeth. There is an intense moment of struggle. Then it says that Samson tore the lion apart. This is slow motion. It's dusty. It's probably like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's hot outside. Samson is tired. The lion is obviously awake and alert and trying to kill Samson. But the author of this passage makes it so vivid, so vividly descriptive that we can almost see the scene playing out before our very eyes. We can almost hear the sounds of the struggle. And then eventually Samson is victorious. And I love how verse 8 says, "When Samson awoke out of his sleep, he thought, 'I will kill the lion as I did the first time.' But when he looked around and saw the lioness, there were 2 little lion cubs with her. He changed his mind." So notice, this is the second time Samson encountered the lion. The first time it was sudden. The second time, now he's awake. He's aware. And now he's more level-headed about the situation. But then he sees the 2 little lion cubs. And though the original Hebrew doesn't say that Samson felt pity, I think it's implied that Samson, he had compassion on these 2 little lion cubs. So he spared their lives. So here's 3 lessons from this passage that I want to close with. First, Samson was humbled. He was taken down to his knees. This lion almost killed him. And Samson realized, hey, it wasn't my strength that allowed me to defeat this lion. It was God's Spirit within me. That's why Judges chapter 13:25 says, "And the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him, and he tore the lion in pieces as he had torn up the first lion. And the bones of the lion were like ashes to his feet. He lifted up his 2 front paws and tore the lioness in pieces. And those who had seen him thought, 'What shall we do?' For as Samson called the lion cubs, they came to him. And he did as he wished with them." The secret of Samson's strength was not in his muscles, it was in his spirit. Second, the lions were real. They were tangible. and they were attacking. They weren't symbolic. These lions, they had teeth, they had claws. They were ferocious. They wanted to eat Samson alive. Lions are predators. And likewise, in our life, the Bible tells us that we're going to have problems. We're going to have hard times. James tells us that we can expect trials to come. I believe those are the lions in our life. They're things like fear, they're hardships, doubt, sin, whatever it may be. But we have a choice. We either run away from these lions or we fight them head on. And oftentimes, the way we fight the lions in our life is not with our physical strength, but it's with our spiritual strength. What is your source of spiritual strength? Is it prayer? Is it worship? Is it the Word of God? Is it fellowship? Or maybe it's a combination of all those things. Whatever it is, make sure that you're connecting yourself to that spiritual source that gives you the spiritual strength to fight the lions in your life. And third and final point, verse 20 says, "And Samson went up to Jerusalem. There was a great famine there, and he went up against the Philistines, and they came down to meet him. And he prayed to God and said, 'Grant me, I pray, strength, O Lord, that I may once only do right, that I may wipe out the living and the dead alike out of the territory of the Philistines.'" So Samson's final victory over the Philistines was not because of his strength, was not because of his wrestling skills, was not because of his martial arts training. His greatest victory was because of God's enabling strength. How do you do that, you might ask? Well, the secret, according to verse 18, is simply this. He prayed. Samson prayed. And I want you to pray right now. I want you to pray and ask God for strength. Ask God for supernatural enabling to do something for him today. Because you know what, my friends, whenever we try to do anything for God, that's natural, that's normal. But when we add the supernatural, the miraculous, the extraordinary, well, my friends, there's nothing we can't do. So I want to close with this. May this be the takeaway, the application. Let us live lives of strength in God. Strength in God. If you're here today, let me hear you say, strength in God. Say it again. Strength in God. Do you feel that? Feel that empowerment in your spirit right now? Because I do. And I pray that you feel that strength in God, because nothing can stop us. Nothing can hinder us. Nothing can limit us when we're walking with God. So let's live lives of strength in God. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to share this with a friend. Subscribe if you haven't already. Also, if you are enjoying these videos and you want to see more, make sure you hit the notification bell. Until next time, peace out.